Hey guys, welcome to Young and Restless Gossip YouTube channel. Today's topics: Hayley Erin, November 2025 Performer of the Month for Young and the Restless. When November 2025 began in Genoa City, few viewers anticipated that one actor, Hayley Erin, would detonate the canvas with the kind of emotional hurricane that instantly redefines a character, reshapes story architecture, and forces an audience to recalibrate every assumption they had about a legacy family's future. Yet by the last week of sweeps, she had done exactly that, playing Claire Grace, a character once introduced as an icy mystery wrapped in whispered trauma. Erin spent November rewriting the rules of what a reformed villain, a damaged survivor, or a reborn Newman could look like, with surgically precise emotional layering, volcanic intensity, and masterful shifts in tone. She produced a month of performances that were less soap acting and more psychological cinema. Her work was the kind that stops remote controls, the kind that makes audiences lean in, the kind that transforms a story beat into a cultural conversation. And it was sustained, scene after scene, week after week, with a level of consistency that very few daytime performers can match. That is why Hayley Erin is the November 2025 Performer of the Month for the Young and the Restless. But to truly understand how she earned it, we have to examine the arc, the craft, and the context, all of which collided to produce one of the most electrifying months the show has delivered in years. The anatomy of a breakthrough performance. 1. Trauma as a living organism. Of the most striking aspects of Erin's November work was how she portrayed trauma not as a static wound, but as a living organism, reactive, unpredictable, intelligent, adaptive. When Claire confronted the fallout from the deception orchestrated by her mother, she played every scene as if Claire's nervous system was recalibrating in real time. Instead of retreating into predictable tearful breakdowns, she gave us micro-expressions that telegraphed flashes of memory, self-judgment, and suppressed rage. In a lesser actor's hands, these scenes would have become repetitive. Erin gave each one its own emotional fingerprint. 2. The slow burn. Before the detonation, soap performances often thrive on explosive reveals, and Erin certainly delivered those. But what made her November portrayal exceptional was the slow burn leading up to those explosions. Consider her early month scenes across from Victoria Newman, played with icy maternal conflict by Amelia Hunt. Erin held herself in a posture of rigid, almost apologetic tension, as if Claire feared taking up emotional space would trigger another lash of abandonment. Her voice would dip, soften, then catch on the edge of a syllable like fabric snagging on a splinter. Viewers could practically see the thoughts racing. Do I deserve to speak? Will this confession ruin everything? Is this the moment they turn on me? This restraint gave her later outbursts seismic power. 3. A performance built on controlled chaos. The brilliance of Erin's acting is that she never allowed Claire to be predictable. One moment she was numb, the next hysterical, the next eerily calm, but always grounded in character truth. She mapped out Claire's trauma responses with clinical accuracy: freeze response, shoulders rising, voice shrinking, breath stalling; fight response, clenched jaw, sharp eye contact, punctuated pacing; fawn response, deferential posture, self-erasure; flight response, dissociation through hollow stares and delayed reactions. This was not soap melodrama. This was psychological realism. The month's defining scenes, and why they worked. 1. The mirror breakdown. One of November's most powerful moments came during Claire's all-on in the bathroom sequence, where she confronted her fractured sense of identity. Erin delivered a masterclass in silent acting. She didn't cry, she shuddered, the kind of involuntary, whole-body tremor that feels like a soul trying to escape its own flesh. Her fingers hovered over the mirror as if touching her own reflection might cause it to shatter. Her breath didn't seem to fill her lungs. This wasn't a scene about sadness, it was a scene about self-recognition. 2. The Phyllis confrontation. Opposite the fiery unpredictability of Phyllis, portrayed by Michelle Stafford, Erin transformed Claire from frightened girl into a woman reclaiming her narrative. She allowed Claire's voice to rise in smooth, controlled increments, no sudden shrieks, no wild gestures. When she finally snapped, it felt earned. The scene played less like two soap heroines sparring and more like a pivotal confrontation in a prestige drama. 3. The hospital hallway. Receiving devastating news about her future with the new Claire collapsed into Chance Chancellor's arms, and Erin gave the moment a raw, involuntary quality that felt almost voyeuristic to watch. Her breathing pattern stuttered, her knees buckled in slow motion, her hands clawed at his sleeves, not for romance, but for survival. It was anguish without vanity. For the Newman family reckoning When Claire finally faced the Newman elders, including a towering performance from Eric Bredon, Erin held her ground with a bravery that felt monumental. Victor's gravity, Nikki's heartbreak, Victoria's conflicted maternal longing, and Claire, she stood as the axis of the entire familial storm. Erin didn't overplay it. She didn't shrink. She simply existed in the moment with nerves vibrating just beneath the surface. It was brilliant. Character study. Claire Grace, Reborn 1. From pawn to player, Claire entered The Young and the Restless as a mystery character, a psychological hostage manipulated into a weapon against the Newman family. Erin had to build her from the ground up, with no decades of history to lean on. By November 2025, Erin had transformed Claire from pawn to player. Claire is now a survivor, a truth-seeking young woman rebuilding an identity stolen from Hera Newman by blood, but not yet by emotional character with future romantic and professional arcs. Simmering 2. The internal tug of plays Claire as someone who lives with two competing selves, the conditioned, self-trained to fear, obey, self-erase, the emerging self-curious, courageous, desperate for belonging. This inner conflict was heightened in November as Claire stepped into more Newman spaces, attempted to form relationships, and battled the fear that she would forever be viewed as the villain she was forced to become. 3. Claire, as the moral compass of the month. Claire, the character introduced through manipulation and deceit, became the moral compass of November 2025's canvas. Through Erin's portrayal, Claire reflected truth back to every character she encountered. She exposed Victoria's blind spots, challenged Victor's authoritarian impulses, revealed Nikki's fragile sobriety, struggles, forced Phyllis to confront her hypocrisy, softened Chance by tapping into his protective instincts, evoked Abby's empathy for survivors. Claire became the emotional litmus test for the show's biggest characters. Craftsmanship. How Hayley Erin built this performance. 1. Vocal technique. Erin modulates her voice with the precision of a stage-trained Shakespearean actor. Low, quivering tones during self-doubt, flat, emotionless lines when dissociated, crisp consonants during melodic cadence when seeking connections, sudden breaks in voice during trauma. Experienced Claire's entire inner world through the sound of her breath. Point 2. Physical storytelling. Erin's physical work this month deserves its own analysis. Shoulders constantly lifted, signaling years of conditioned survival. Hands clasping each other, self-soothing feet shifting nervously, preparing for escape. Head tilting downward, shame and fear. Eye contact, darting, then locking, then darting again. Hypervigilance. When she finally stood upright, squared her shoulders, and held her chin high during the month's climax, it felt like a rebirth. 3. Emotional honesty over soap, exaggeration rather than relying on big tears or dramatic gestures. Erin trusted the audience to understand subtlety. A flicker of half-swallowed apology, a micro-expression of hope, a tremor of anger quickly suppressed. She allowed Claire to feel, rather than perform, and that authenticity is rare. Why this month matters in the larger Y&R narrative. 1. A new generation of Newman storytelling. For years, Newman stories on Y&R have centered on legacy conflicts, corporate warfare, and long-running rivalries. Claire changes the formula. She adds fresh blood, psychological stakes, generational trauma, unpredictable alliances, young woman's fight for identity, raw emotional vulnerability. Hayley Erin's performance ensures Claire is not just an add-on but a future tentpole. 2. The show's emotional center of gravity shifted in November 2025. The emotional center of the show quietly shifted from Victor's strategic machinations to Claire's internal battle. It wasn't a coup, it was an evolution. Claire's trauma arc allowed the show to explore themes such as, what does it mean to belong? Can a family forgive the sins you were forced to commit? How do survivors rebuild when the world doubts their motives? What is redemption when you were never given a chance to choose? These are deeper questions than the typical corporate or romantic storylines, and Erin's performances made them feel urgent. 3. Setting up 2026. Erin's November work sets up multiple long-term arcs. A potential rivalry between Claire and Summer over Chance's strained but transformative bond with Victorian, unsteady alliance with Nikki,